Welcome to part 3 of this video tutorial series on matte painting. My name is Ed Lopez for PSD Tuts. The things we will be covering today generally are extracting and combining two images, using adjustment layers to make a nighttime scene, creatively painting with masks, painting windows and highlights, painting fires and torches, along with the smoke for each fire, and the final effects adjustment layers. We will be using the images that I linked in this tutorial that I found for you guys on the internet. These two images fit very nice together, and believe me, that's a large portion of the work in matte painting is finding the right stock that fits together. It's not that magic, not by magic that these images used in these tutorials fit so good together. It's the work we have to do to get those and select those amongst several 100,000 images available on the internet. So get the resource files, get the brushes files, the gradient files, get it all together so we can get started on this new tutorial. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're gonna start with this image. We're going to do an extraction of the foreground structure here. If you have a look at the other parts of this video series, you already know how to do this. We're going to be using the polygonal lasso tool again, just to drag and define a selection of the elements that in this case are architectural. Just delicately building up the sections, filling them with black in a new layer, and continuing with the next section. I do this in sections because it's easy not to mess it up. And as soon as you have the whole selection filled with black, you can see it builds up in a new layer. Then you will make a mask of this selection by hitting Command click on the thumbnail, and then you create a new mask. Previously, by inverting the selection, you create a new mask on the image, and then apply the mask so you remove whatever was in the black section quickly and easily. Then we bring that cutout, that extracted layer onto our main image that I have chosen for this. This is the background of a nice old style city. Of course, this background image is extremely wide, and we're going to reduce the canvas size a little bit to about 5,000 pixels wide. And of course, these two images work nice together, because that's part of our job, to find images that work together. I spend quite a bit of time searching for these ones for you guys on the internet, and finding those in free sources is even harder. Now we're going to merge the two images together by grouping them, and after grouping those, we're going to make one copy for the dark and one copy for the light section that we're gonna adjust separately. And first we're gonna go work on the dark with the shadow and highlight tool. And as you can see here, the objective is to eliminate or reduce the contrast from the highlights and shadows, making it quite a bit dull. Of course, all these settings are saved on your download folder, so you can access those load them up and study them. But we're gonna be applying the same settings to both dark and light layer. Now we're gonna do a hue saturation layer, starting with the dark layer. We're gonna be adjusting the master and the yellows and the blue and the cyans separately to make adjustments to achieve that colorless look of a nighttime shot. As you can, if you remember, in nighttime scenes, all the color cast is almost gone. There's some kind of blue cast that we're gonna be creating later. And now we're gonna apply an exposure filter, an exposure layer to achieve that darkness in our dark layer. As you can see, there is no magic solution for this. It's just a matter of adjusting the exposure until you get the settings. And of course, we are doing this in adjustment layers, so we can come back and adjust whatever we need later as we work on the image. And we're going to do a new hue saturation layer to try and find the absence of all those colors that are typical of a nighttime scene. The lightness, the hues, the saturation, and as you can see, it's also a matter of adjustments, tiny adjustments until you find the correct settings. But I always like to do several different layers that allow me to adjust all these settings, come back and adjust again as we do the rest of the work. Now we're going to do a hue saturation layer for the lights layer, and the objective here is also the same: remove all saturation. Even this will be the lights will be used for the light highlights of the street lights and fires and such. We also don't need the daytime illumination, so we're going to reduce also the saturation for the yellow channels, the blue channels, and the cyan channels. As you can see, it's mostly reducing the saturation in all of those channels. And also we're going to be doing a exposure layer, just mostly to have and to be able to adjust if necessary. Even if this is going to be the highlights layer, it's not going to be as bright, so we need to adjust it a little bit, as seen here. And finally, we're going to do the hue saturation layer that provides all the yellowish cast. So this one we're going to set up with the colorize option enabled, and we're going to find this yellowish almost sepia tone for our layer as such. And as you can see, this yellow layer will only be revealed when we paint the mask on the top layer. This image is going to be meant to be an ancient image, so cars and buses and streetlights and such are not supposed to be present. So we're going to be doing a new layer which we'll be working on painting, as you can see here. Just grabbing a small defined brush and sampling from the canvas. You sample the grays from the canvas and paint over all the cars and such, kind of rebuilding the street as you can see here, the people, the people, it's okay to. We're gonna still have people in this scene, but we're gonna be working, as you can see here, to remove all the cars, parking lots, and such, as seen here. It's just sampling from the background grays of the main street, of the original street, and in this new layer just painting over it. It's quite small details, so we can paint quite easily. I'm also removing this kind of banner ads for, I think there were stores in there or something. So those are obviously out of place also. And just go around the image, as you can see here, trying to eliminate all the cars, all the buses, all the obvious evidence of the 21st century scene. And the bridge in the background. Just sample from the background and paint over what is there. That plane also. It would be weird to have a plane in there. Now, as soon as we have all our painting done, we're gonna merge that layer with the dark layer, so it's everything together. And we're gonna use this gradient tool to start indicating in a new layer all those little lights on the street. These are going to be fire lights, antique fire lights. You can load those gradients from the file in the tutorial. And once we have some little lights defined, we're gonna use the smudge tool and a small brush to kind of pull out a little bit of those gradients we have defined, make them look like fires, like little fire lights on the streets. And now we're going to start using the mask on the dark layer, and with a very soft brush such as this one, as you can see, painting with black on the mask reveals our yellowish light layer below, giving us nice light reflections, light casting on the walls of the building and the streets. Of course, you reduce the size of the brush where needed on those handrails in the boardwalk, like such, or depending if you're on which section of the building you're painting, like these borders here. You increase or decrease the size of the brush, and you can see this gives us a nice looking feeling of light from these fires casting on the buildings. Now we're gonna go working on a new layer, and with the same gradient tool, you can load that from the file. We're gonna drag some gradients in sections of the cities, as you can see here. Then with the soft brush, I am just erasing of the foreground, because these fires are supposed to be behind those buildings. So just to indicate that, I erase a little bit of the bottom. And then the same technique as we did with the fire lights, with the fires on the streets. We're gonna pull out some flames. If we need, we can add more gradients, as I did here. And we just pull out with the smudge tool flames from the city fires. Now we're going to be using this brush that is also on your brushes folder. I'll be adjusting this brush, but the file you have is already adjusted. I'm going to be adjusting the spacing, the scattering and such, and sampling from the same fire. just painting some particles of this fire going up into the sky, as you can see here. And then, using the same technique we used to cast yellowish light on the buildings, we're going to use the mask on the dark layer to reveal the yellowish tone of our light layer, roughly just indicating that these big fires will be casting intense orange light on this tower, on these buildings around it. Just changing the size of the brush a little bit to paint a little bit more on the corners, on the edges. You can always come back here to adjust. This is a mask. You can always adjust and intensify. And just imagine where this fire will be casting light a little bit more in the close by buildings, and a little bit less on the far away buildings. But this is again just using the mask on the dark layer. Now we're going to be using this cloudy brush I have prepared for you. It's in the brush file, and selecting this gray here. Gonna start painting a little bit of smoke coming out from these fires. You can see I just jumped from a very dark gray to a slightly lighter gray, and variate the size of the brush a little bit to build up what looks like smoke coming from those fires. I recommend you open the file for this brush and study it. And now, moving on to the foreground, we're gonna be doing a new layer using the same technique we applied for the lights in the background, the fires. We're gonna be doing some lights, some fires for the foreground also. First, erasing, as you can see here, of the borders, limiting the glow of these fires, so it looks more realistically. The light of these fires look realistically blocked from parts of the structure. And then again, the same technique, we jump to the smudge tool, and with a small brush start pulling out flames from these fires. Of course, don't hesitate to vary the size of the brush if you need it. Now let's just erase a little bit of the glow from these fires, so it's not so round and evident. And there we go, we have some fires. Now we're gonna go back to the mask of our dark layer to reveal again what we have from our light yellowish layer, to represent all the yellowish cast from these fires on the walls here of this ruined structure in the foreground. The same we did for the fires back there in the streets. Of course, just vary the brush size whenever you need it. And just take into consideration where are the fires, and where would the light from those fires be casting onto these walls. And remember, this is a mask, so we can always come back to it and adjust the borders, adjust the detail. But since this is a layer below it, the yellowish layer, the layer for the lights, for the highlights we did previously, you can see it's very easy just to go around masking off the layer on top, and our nice yellow layer below takes care of all the detail, which would be much more difficult if we try to paint these yellowish highlights without the layer below. And you can see we can jump from the black to the white. If you paint on the mask with the white, then you will mask off the layer once again. And that's why this technique with the layer below for the highlights is quite useful, which we can adjust several times. And the layer below provides the detail. We just have to take care of where would these highlights be. As you can see, just as I said several times, you just vary the size of our brush to paint in the more detail, and you can see how quickly and easily this is done, taking advantage of our layer below and jumping back and forth between the light within the white and the dark to paint on this mask, to eliminate or add the highlights as needed. This technique can be used for several purposes other than this. When you make a copy of an image and make one of the copies the color or the effect you need or you want to apply, and then just use the mask to apply those effects. Here I'm using a much smaller brush to paint in the highlights projected on these windows, suggesting a fire inside there, and of course jumping back to white to soften those effects a little bit more. Okay, now we will be creating a new layer where we will paint the highlights for the windows, the lights that are inside the buildings. So just sampling from one of the fires here, we will try to get a nice yellowish color, and just with a very small brush start painting a little bit of highlights on random windows to suggest somebody living inside there, some activity inside the windows. So as you can see, just painting on this layer. This layer mode is set to screen, so the effect is a little bit more accurate. And it's just a matter of going around each window, adding those highlights, suggesting the frames of the windows, and painting a little bit of cast on the frames, on the outside frames of the structure, as I show here. And we have to go all around the city, adding these window highlights, lights inside the buildings. But you get right here, you get the idea. This process is a lot of fun, but since we have a whole city to cover, it's a long process. So I'm gonna jump forward in time to the next section. I'm gonna use the scattering brush we used earlier. We reduced the diameter to 1 pixel and increased the scattering to 512%. And using oranges and reds, we will add a little bit to these particles going up with the smoke, and then going back to the same smoke. We will use our cloudy brush, also included in the brush file, and using the same reds and oranges, we'll try to add some casts from this fire onto the smoke itself. And once we're finished, we're gonna use dark grays and same light grade for the smoke to blend it all together, so we get a bit more realistic smoke coming out from these fires. We will also be doing a couple of more of these fires around the city, in the same manner we have done these ones, starting up with the fire, and then building up the effect with the smoke and little particles going up the flames, retouching the bottom of the flames itself, and with this smudge tool adding a little bit more of flame activity in there. As you can see, I added several other fires going around, and now we will add some effects layer I like to add, and that they in this case work very nicely. It's a blue layer set up to overlay, and with a bit of reduced opacity, but we will also add a mask to this layer, and with a big soft brush we're gonna mask off in those places where we want to see all of the work we did with the lights, but at the same time providing a nice blue cast on our nighttime scene. Now we're gonna add this gradient layer. It's just a color to transparent layer. We're gonna be using reds, from a very bright red to a medium pinkish red. Those are also saved on your gradient file. We changed the angle so it comes from the sky, and set this one to overlay, again with a mask, and with the same sub brush we mask it off, because we only want this red layer, this red gradient layer, to affect the upper section of the sky. Try to indicate that the clouds above the sky above is being affected by these fires going on in the background. But we also will be adding another layer to complement our nighttime sky, a little bit of hue of blue color that could be coming from the moon or something. So in a new layer we select this dark blue, and with this sub brush just paint around a little bit, just to give a hint of blue cast on the upper sky that combines with this red glow from the fires very nicely. And that is it. We have come to the end of the tutorial. We have a nice image to show for our efforts. Hope you have learned quite a bit. As always, if you guys need some help, if you're stuck with anything, feel free to shoot me an email. And of course, make good use of the Photoshop file, study it, and I'm sure, and I'll love to see what you come up with these newly learned techniques. Thank you very much. I am Ed Lopez, and see you on the next one.